So welcome to They Think You Will Accept Anything, don't they? More and more, don't you think that these studios, streaming platforms, well, the studios own the streaming platform, right? They own Paramount Plus, Max, Netflix, what have you, Disney Plus. So I was thinking, there's many shows, of course, but I wanted to pick 3 for today's discussion. And that is, in no particular order, Star Trek Discovery, The Acolyte, and Willow. Right? 3. Now, what do they have in common? Well, I think they support my premise and contention here. They support the idea that they think you will accept anything as long as it's corralled and layered and smothered and hidden in the franchise name. Star Trek, right? Star Wars with the Acolyte, and then Willow, which is the same franchise. Well, Willow the movie, and then Willow the TV show. I love the old Willow the movie. I guess I watched maybe 10 minutes of the show. I was in shock. I was in absolute shock. And Willow remains, I don't know if the only one, but certainly the most prominent example of a streamer. Like, this is their new sort of business model. If the show doesn't do well, ratings, they pull it because then they don't have to pay license and royalty fees. So it was a bomb. I think they said at its lowest, it got only 14% of any streaming audience. Incredible, right? So again, that way, if they keep it on Disney Plus, then they have to keep paying like Warwick Davis and the other actors and some sort of royalty, so they save money. So let's go now to Star Trek Discovery. Now, some people might say, well, it ran 5 seasons, right? Star Trek Discovery ran 5 seasons. I was going to say, I guess there's some people who like it. I have never met anyone who likes Star Trek Discovery. On my channel, I regularly do polls. On my YouTube channel, I put, shows the popularity and such engage. And Star Trek Discovery always gets maybe 20%. It's incredible of like. So say 75, 80% do not. And so now it's just one poll. A lot of times I'll get many hundreds of respondents and, to taking the poll. So I think it's an interesting indication. It certainly is a snapshot of where I think the fan base looked at Star Trek Discovery and considers what Star Trek Discovery is. I also say, too, it's sort of like a prequel. I was never a fan of Star Trek Enterprise, another prequel. Okay, so then, and now we have Strange New Worlds, which is technically a prequel, but it's so close to the Kirk era now, Captain Kirk's in it. So that's one of the reasons I think it sort of, plays, and it's a bit of a hit. But Star Trek Discovery, in terms of many things, I mean, even the ship design and that spore warp core or whatever, so many reasons we could go through them, right? And then finally, the Acolyte. Now, I remember learning when I heard that Carrie-Anne Moss, one of my favorites from The Matrix, good old Trinity, right? She was in it. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And so I guess I watched the first 20 minutes or so, and the great fight scene or two and all, and then it just was like, it's so hard to describe The Acolyte because it's Star Wars. I think it still is the most expensive streaming series, a vast amount. I think it was 30 or 40 million an episode, just unbelievable. And in fact, I think a couple months back, the main sort of dude, not Kathleen Kennedy, whomever is the Star Wars poobah or at Lucasfilm and Disney was like, we were appalled that we spent that. We're kind of embarrassed by spending that much money on a show, on any show, I guess. Well, unless it's gonna hit, and obviously the Acolyte did not. So that's my basic discussion here. They think you will accept anything, because if you look at these shows, yeah, very maybe lavish budgets, lavish special effects and production values. That doesn't make a show. And with the Acolyte, for sure, we learn that spending that much money on a show means nothing. You've got to have the characters, the story, and I'd say, of course, keep in line with your franchise. Like, again, Star Wars, Star Trek, even Willow. You've got an older fan base, and even sort of a mid-range, because maybe the old the really old dudes and dudettes, the old guys and gals, yeah, they're older, so maybe they won't accept newer stuff. But we have even people who maybe came to Trek and Star Wars much later, and they're even kind of mystified. I liked Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. I liked, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and all. And you're giving this doesn't make sense. This completely sort of invalidates what went before. You could call it retconning. You could call it, to be kind, retconning. People could call it bastardization. You're bastardizing. You're completely messing and fucking it up. You're making it into a hot mess. So, what do you think? Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. I just really think that whole, it hit me this morning. I was having breakfast, and they think that you will accept anything, but they're wrong, because as we illustrated here today, many failures and there's many more. So what do you think? Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. Hope you're enjoying. Hope you're subscribing. See you soon.